Welcome to my channel, Old Coins Quarter Dollar, where history lives in your hands. If you're passionate about rare coins, vintage currency, and the fascinating stories behind them, you're in the right place. Don't forget to watch the full video, share it with your fellow collectors, like, and subscribe to stay updated with more valuable content every week. So let's get started. The 1965 Washington quarter dollar is one of the most historically significant American coins of the 20th century, not because of a change in design, but because of a dramatic change in composition and policy. Prior to 1965, U.S. quarters had been struck in 90% silver and 10% copper since 1932, when the Washington design was first introduced. But rising silver prices in the early 1960s created an economic crisis. Americans began hoarding silver coins, removing them from circulation faster than the mint could replace them. President Lyndon B. Johnson and Congress responded with the Coinage Act of 1965, which removed silver from dimes and quarters entirely, replacing them with a copper-nickel-clad composition. Thus, the 1965 quarter became the first clad quarter, inaugurating the modern era of American coinage. On the obverse of the coin is a classical bust of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan in 1932. Washington is portrayed facing left, with his tied-back hair rendered in neoclassical curls. Above his portrait arcs the word liberty, a founding principle and an ideal that Washington himself embodied. To the left of his neck appears the motto, "In God We Trust," an inscription that had by then become a fixture of U.S. coinage, reflecting the nation's moral and spiritual heritage. At the bottom is the date 1965, anchoring the coin to this critical year in numismatic history. Notably, there is no mint mark on 1965 quarters. The mint deliberately omitted mint marks from 1965 through 1967 to discourage collectors from saving coins during a nationwide coin shortage. Therefore, whether a 1965 quarter was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, all bear the exact same obverse design with no identifying letter. The reverse features Flanagan's bold heraldic eagle, which had adorned quarters since 1932. The eagle sits proudly on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing readiness to defend the nation, while beneath lies a laurel wreath, a classical emblem of victory and peace. Encircling the top is the inscription United States of America, declaring the issuing nation. Just below this is a Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, symbolizing the unity of the states and the blending of diverse peoples into a single republic. At the bottom is a denomination quarter dollar, affirming its place in commerce. This reverse imagery, strong yet balanced, projects both the martial strength and the peaceful aspirations of the United States. The technical specifications of the 1965 quarter distinguish it sharply from earlier issues. Instead of 90% silver, it was struck in copper-nickel clad, consisting of an inner core of pure copper sandwiched between outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. The weight was set at 5.67 grams, compared to 6.25 grams for the old silver coins, and the diameter remained 24.3 millimeters. The edge retained its traditional reading, with 119 tiny ridges. While this reading originally served to prevent fraud when coins were silver, it remained as a tactile identifier of the quarter denomination. The clad construction gave the new coins a different feel and a slightly different color tone compared to silver quarters, something the public noticed immediately. The mintage of the 1965 quarter was enormous, reflecting the urgency of replacing vanished silver coins in circulation. More than 1.8 billion quarters dated 1965 were struck, and the date was used well into 1966 until coin supply stabilized. This makes the 1965 quarter one of the most heavily produced coins of its era. Its abundance means that circulated examples are extremely common today and usually worth only face value. However, the coin has a famous and valuable rarity. A small number of 1,965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These transitional errors are among the great prizes of modern U.S. coinage, worth thousands of dollars depending on condition. Collectors also seek high-grade clad examples certified in MS-66, MS-67, or higher, which are scarce due to weak strikes and heavy circulation. The public reception of the 1965 quarter was mixed. Many Americans disliked the change, seeing the new clad coin as cheap compared to its silver predecessor. Some even tried to avoid accepting them, preferring to hoard older silver quarters. But as years passed and silver coins disappeared from circulation, the clad quarter became the new normal, and the 1965 issue marked the turning point. Over time, Americans grew accustomed to the copper-nickel coins, and the 1965 quarter became a symbol of economic reality, a coin not backed by intrinsic silver value but by the trust of the government and the strength of the economy. The historical context of the year 1965 deepens the coin's significance. This was a turbulent time in American history. The nation was in the midst of the Civil Rights Movement, with the Voting Rights Act signed into law that very year. The Vietnam War was escalating, drawing increasing numbers of young Americans into conflict overseas. At home, Lyndon Johnson's Great Society program sought to tackle poverty and inequality. Against this backdrop of social change and political upheaval, the humble quarter itself was transformed, no longer a silver coin, but a practical copper-nickel workhorse of daily commerce. It is remarkable how this small change in metal reflects larger themes of the era: adaptation, modernization, and the tension between tradition and necessity. For numismatists, the 1965 quarter is an essential piece in any modern U.S. collection. While common in circulated form, its role as the first clad quarter makes it a milestone. Collectors often seek uncirculated rolls or mint-set examples to study the strike quality and luster of these early clad issues. Transitional eras on silver planchets remain legendary, commanding strong premiums at auction. Even ordinary 1965 quarters tell a story, of a nation adjusting to economic pressures, of coins evolving to meet practical needs, and a tradition preserved in design while altered in substance. In conclusion, the 1965 Washington quarter dollar is much more than a piece of change. It represents a watershed moment in U.S. coinage, where the timeless portrait of Washington and the noble eagle design continued, but the very metal of the coin changed forever. Its inscriptions, Liberty, Indiana, God we trust, E pluribus unum, United States of America, spoke of ideals and unity, even as its copper-nickel body reflected modern economic realities. Circulated by the billions, it became a coin of the people, present in every pocket and purse, silent witness to the upheavals of the 1960s. Today it endures as a reminder that even the smallest objects in our hands can tell the greatest stories of national change and continuity. The 1985 United States Washington quarter dollar stands as one of the many small but significant coins in American numismatic history, continuing the long-running Washington quarter series that began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which is identified by the P mint mark placed in the obverse just behind Washington's hair tie, the coin carries with it not only monetary value but also the deeper symbolic representation of American heritage, patriotism, and artistic design that has endured for decades. The obverse of the 1985 quarter bears a familiar portrait of the nation's first president, George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. Washington's bust is shown facing left in a neoclassical style, with finely detailed curls in his tied-back hair, capturing dignity and resolve. Above his head arcs the word Liberty, a constant reminder of the founding ideals of the United States, while to the left appears the motto In God We Trust, reaffirming both the nation's spiritual convictions and its reliance on divine providence throughout history. At the bottom is the date 1985, which ties the coin to its specific era, and just beside the portrait truncation lies a P mint mark, the Philadelphia Mint symbol of production. Turning to the reverse, one sees the enduring heraldic eagle design that dominated U.S. quarters from 1932 until the advent of the 50-state quarters program in 1999. The eagle, a strong and majestic emblem of America, is depicted with outstretched wings, perched proudly upon a bundle of arrows that signify readiness for defense and strength in times of danger. Below the arrows is a laurel wreath, a classical emblem of victory, peace, and honor. Above the eagle's head curves the inscription United States of America with the Latin motto E pluribus unum placed just beneath, meaning out of many, one, a profound declaration of unity across diverse peoples and states that make up the Republic. At the bottom rests the denomination quarter dollar, affirming its place as 25 cents in everyday commerce. The reverse design, with its bold eagle, is a blend of classical symbolism and American identity, serving as both functional currency art and a proud national statement. The 1985p quarter was struck in large numbers. Over 775 million pieces were minted at Philadelphia that year, making it a common coin in circulation. It was composed of the modern clad metal format introduced in 1965, a copper-nickel outer layer bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin its silvery appearance while reducing cost compared to the earlier 90% silver quarters minted before 1965. The coin weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge with 119 ridges, a feature originally introduced on precious metal coins to deter clipping and shaving of silver content. By 1985, the Washington quarter had been in production for more than 5 decades, with collectors, historians, and casual users all accustomed to its reliable imagery and feel. From a historical standpoint, 1985 was not a year of major coinage reform or design change, but it represented the steady production of currency to meet the needs of a growing economy. The Philadelphia Mint, where this quarter originated, had no mint mark before 1980, but beginning in that year, the P mark was officially used. So by 1985 its presence had become familiar to collectors and the general public. Although billions of Washington quarters had already been made, the 1985p quarter reflects its era through details of strike quality, minting technology, and circulation wear. Many pieces today survive in circulated grades, with worn surfaces, dull luster, and marks from decades of pocket change, vending machines, and cash registers. Uncirculated examples, especially those with strong strikes and brilliant mint luster, are prized by collectors, while a small fraction exists in extremely high grade certified by professional grading services, sometimes commanding strong premiums. Eras and varieties from 1985 also interest numismatists. As with other Washington quarters, off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, and clipped planchets occasionally appear, giving collectors unique pieces that deviate from the norm. While most 1985p quarters hold only face value in circulated condition, mint state coins graded MS65 or higher can fetch several dollars, and superb gem examples, MS67 and above, may be valued at hundreds, depending on rarity and demand. Proof versions of the quarter, with mirror-like fields and frosted devices, were struck separately at the San Francisco Mint for collector sets, but the Philadelphia circulation strikes like the 1985p were the true workhorses of everyday American commerce. Culturally, the 1985p Washington quarter represents an America in the midst of the 1980s, an era defined by political conservatism, economic growth, and rapid technological change. Yet even in such dynamic times, the coinage remained constant, providing a sense of continuity stretching back to the Great Depression when the Washington quarter was first introduced. For collectors today, holding a 1985p quarter is to possess a piece of that continuity, a small, durable metal artifact that passed through countless hands, carried the symbols of the Republic, and quietly served the economic life of the nation. In summary, the 1985p Washington quarter dollar is more than a piece of pocket change. It is a coin deeply rooted in American tradition, symbolizing liberty, trust, unity, and strength through its design elements. Minted in huge numbers at the Philadelphia Mint, it is not rare in circulated condition, but it remains historically significant as part of the long-running Washington Quarter series. For numismatists, its value lies not only in monetary terms, but in its role as a cultural artifact, an object that connects us to the era in which it was made, the ideals it represents, and the countless stories it has silently witnessed in circulation for more than 3 decades. The 1981 United States quarter dollar belongs to the Washington 1981 Quarter Series, which has long been one of the most recognized and enduring coinage designs in American history. First struck in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the quarter carried forward John Flanagan's obverse portrait of the nation's first president for more than 6 decades, until the design was eventually replaced with a 50-state quarters program in 1999. The 1981 issue sits in this long continuum, not marking a major anniversary year like the 1976 bicentennial coinage, but representing the standard-bearer of U.S. commerce during the early years of Ronald Reagan's presidency and a period of national transition in economics, politics, and cultural life. Millions of Americans handled this coin daily without pause, yet its details, artistry, and symbolism tell a much deeper story about the nation's values and identity. On the obverse, George Washington is depicted in left-facing profile, his tied-back hair rendered with finely detailed curls that reflect the neoclassical style of the 18th century. His expression is firm and dignified, embodying both leadership and resolve. Above the portrait stretches the word liberty, which has appeared on nearly all American coins since the founding of the mint in 1792. This inscription is not merely decorative. It reflects a bedrock principle upon which the United States was founded, a constant reminder of the Revolution's cause and the freedom that defines a nation. To the left of Washington's throat is the motto, "In God We Trust," a declaration first placed on coins during the Civil War to reassure a divided and war-torn people. By 1981, this motto was well entrenched, having been declared the official national motto in 1956, and its inclusion on the quarter speaks to America's spiritual convictions and cultural heritage. At the bottom, center beneath Washington's neck, is the date 1981, tying the coin to a particular era in American history. On the reverse, the coin displays a majestic heraldic eagle design that had been in use since 1932. The eagle's wings are fully outstretched, a pose of vigilance, strength, and freedom. It perches upon a bundle of arrows, which symbolize readiness of defense and the nation's willingness to protect its liberty and independence. Below the arrows rests a laurel wreath, a classical emblem of victory and peace, suggesting that while America is strong and prepared for conflict, its ultimate desire is harmony and triumph through unity. Encircling the upper rim is a proud inscription, "United States of America," announcing the issuing nation with authority. Beneath it appears the revered Latin motto, "E pluribus unum," out of many, one, which signifies a union of diverse states and peoples into one strong republic. Finally, the bottom of the reverse spells out the denomination, $quarter, making clear its value in commerce. This balanced design reflects both America's classical ideals and its modern identity as a powerful and unified nation. The technical specifications of the 1981 quarter were the result of a coinage reform that had occurred in 1965, when silver was removed from circulating quarters due to rising bullion prices. By 1981, the clad composition was fully standard, an inner core of pure copper sandwiched between two outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This construction gave the coin its silvery sheen while being far less expensive than its earlier silver counterparts. The coin weighs 5.67 grams, has a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.75 millimeters. The edge is reeded, containing 119 tiny grooves that add both tactile and visual distinction to the denomination. While the reeding was originally intended to prevent fraud when quarters were struck from silver, by 1981 it served mainly as a familiar and traditional element of the design. The mintage numbers of the 1981 quarters were substantial, as the nation's commerce required a steady flow of coinage for vending machines, transportation fares, and everyday transactions. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 356 million quarters, while the Denver Mint contributed another 575 million, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins for collectors. Together, this massive production ensured that the 1981 quarter was not rare in circulation, but its availability does not diminish its importance as a historical artifact. Circulated examples are extremely common and usually worth only their face value, but uncirculated coins with sharp strikes, brilliant mint luster, and minimal contact marks are far scarcer and command premiums in the numismatic market. For collectors, the 1981 Washington quarter represents an interesting study in condition rarity. While hundreds of millions were produced, the quality of minting in the early 1980s was often inconsistent, with many coins showing weak strikes or bag marks from mass handling. As a result, high-grade certified coins in MS-66 or higher are relatively scarce, and superb gems in MS-67 or above are rare and desirable, sometimes selling for significant premiums at auction. Proof coins from San Francisco, struck with mirrored fields and frosted devices, are also highly sought by collectors who appreciate their beauty and craftsmanship. Error coins from 1981, including off-center strikes, double dies, clip planches, and broad strikes, add another layer of collector interest, as such mistakes offer unique variations on an otherwise standard issue. The historical and cultural backdrop of 1981 provides additional meaning to this quarter. It was the dawn of a new decade and the beginning of the Reagan era, marked by themes of conservatism, patriotism, and a strong stance against Cold War adversaries. Inflation and economic challenges defined the early 1980s, but there was also a renewed sense of national pride. The eagle reverse of the quarter, with its bold imagery of strength and peace, resonated with these broader cultural currents. Each coin circulated as a quiet symbol of stability in uncertain times, changing hands in millions of small transactions, from gas stations to grocery stores, and carrying national imagery into the daily lives of citizens. In conclusion, the 1981 Washington quarter dollar is far more than just 25 cents. It is a work of art rooted in the neoclassical portrait of George Washington, combined with inscriptions that emphasize liberty, trust in God, and unity from diversity. Its eagle reverse carries enduring symbols of strength, defense, and peace. Struck in enormous numbers in copper-nickel clad, it represents the practical, modern phase of American coinage, while still evoking timeless ideals. For the numismatist, it offers a challenge of finding high-grade examples, proof issues, and error varieties. For the historian, it provides a tangible connection to the early 1980s, a time of national change, economic struggle, and renewed patriotic spirit. And for the casual observer, it remains one of the most familiar pieces of money, a coin that has silently carried the nation's story in millions of pockets, purses, and cash registers for more than 4 decades.